You are welcome to this lecture on test, measurement, assessment, and evaluation in education. We have test, measurement, assessment, and evaluation in other sectors of human endeavor. But here, this one is with reference to education. We are trying to solve this problem because we realized that test, measurement, and assessment and evaluation are used interchangeably in education when it is not supposed to be so. Test, measurement, assessment, and evaluation used in education interchangeably, whereas they do not mean the same thing, should be understood and avoided possibly. As verbs, test, assessment. As verbs, test, assess, or evaluate may be used as synonyms, but as nouns, they have different meanings in education. In any case, they are all needed collectively or individually in education for quality assurance. Hence, most teachers or stakeholders use them interchangeably despite the differences between them. Now, in order to distinguish them, we start with test. What is test? What is testing? A test is a tool, technique, or method that is intended to measure students' knowledge or their ability to complete a task or a particular task. It is a device or product that measures a particular behavior or set of objectives. According to the standards for educational and psychological testing, 1999, it is an evaluative device or procedure in which a sample of a learner's behavior in a specified domain is obtained and subsequently evaluated and scored using a standardized process. Now, we will try to explain. One is that test is an evaluative device. It is not just a device, it is not just a procedure, but an evaluative device. The other aspect is that it measures a particular behavior of learners. We should know that test measures a particular behavior of learners. It could be in a specified domain. That domain could be the cognitive domain, the psychomotor domain, or the affective domain. It could also be possible that it measures the three domains in education, such as achievement test. Then the test must be scored. A test that is not scored, when you administer an instrument or a device or technique or method that you call a test, and you did not score it, it ceases to be a test. It must be scored using a standardized process. There should be a process already known that it will be used for. As a device, test has some basic requirements, which are validity, reliability, and practicality. An instrument you call test must be valid, being able to measure what it intends to measure. It must be reliable, being consistent in getting the particular data or information that is intended to get over a period of time or repeatedly. then it must be practical. It must be feasible. The test must be applied. There are some tests that you set, you prepare, but it will be too costly to administer. In that case, it is not practical. Test or testing, which is a gerund, the act of administering the instrument now, is a procedure intended to establish the quality, performance, or reliability of learning outcomes. Types of tests. We have the standardized test. That is test that has been validated, tried-tested, and ratified by experts. Non-standardized tests, otherwise known as teacher-made tests, the one we make by ourselves and use it in the classroom. We also have examination as like entrance examination as a test. We have high stakes tests like driver's license test, written test, oral test, achievement test, which covers the 3 domains, performance test, which is on psychomotor, proficiency test, which tries to find out the extent at which someone can read or speak language fluently, fluency test, proficiency, ability to read. Then open note test, physical fitness test. All these are different types of tests. What is measurement? Measurement is a process of assigning size, quality, unit, or degree to data obtained from a learner. This data obtained from a learner could be obtained using tests. A measurement is a method of quantifying or qualifying data obtained from a learner's extent of achievement or performance using tests. So test is a device which is used to obtain information about learners' achievement. But the act of quantifying, the act of assigning score, or the process of scoring that data objectively or subjectively is known as measurement. Measurement is comprised of scoring, grading, recording the scores or the grade. This is all about measurement. So measurement tries to quantify the data obtained using tests. Now, what is assessment? Assessment is a systematic process of collating, documenting, and using empirical data on the learner's knowledge, skills, attitude, interest, and belief to improve learning. It is an act of gathering and organizing information about learners' performance to make decisions and judgment about their learning. It is a process of collecting information about the learners using different methods or tools. Such method or tools could be test, quiz, or portfolio. It is, according to Tyler 1450, a systematic process of determining the extent to which educational objectives are achieved by pupils. Now, on the analysis, there are things we need to know. That assessment is systematic. That it is planned. It does not just occur anyhow. It must be planned. It has an order that it should follow. 2 is that it is a process. It begins from somewhere. So the act of preparing or developing tests is part of assessment. The act of administering that test to the students is part of assessment. The act of quantifying the data obtained from the students is part of assessment. Now, we should also understand that when we are talking of assessment, we are talking of learners' abilities. It is associated, it revolves around the learner. And it is mainly for decision-making and improvement. It is for decision-making and improvement. So these are the things we should know about assessment, that it is a systematic process. It is a process. It collects data using tests. Then measuring the data, assigning scores to those data, and making judgment about the data for improvement. Now, what do we assess in education? What do we assess in education? We assess the learner's knowledge, skills, ability, achievement, like the competence, knowledge, skills, and attitude, the performance, attitude, aptitude, interest, mastery, or proficiency of a learner. So everything about assessment is geared towards a learner. It revolves around a learner, human being. Now, three purposes of classroom assessment. One is that as a teacher, you assess of learning outcomes, assessment of learning outcomes, assessment of learning, trying to find out the learning outcomes, if the objectives, intended objectives, has been achieved by the students. Assessment for learning, that this one is meant for the teacher to know if the method he used for teaching is effective or not effective, for adjustment. Then assessment as learning. This is a situation whereby students are involved for setting the achievable goals and objectively measuring their progress. So the students are involved in setting the objective they want to achieve. And when they perform, they also measure if they have achieved it. So they are involved in the achievement. They learn about, by knowing what they are going to be assessed against, and then trying to come up to that standard. Types of assessment. We have needs assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment, diagnostic assessment, non-reference assessment, criterion reference assessment. We also have self-reference assessment. It's not here, whereby you compare what you have achieved with yourself. For instance, you are listening to me now. Before listening to this lecture, there are things you have known about the concepts we are discussing, the test, the measurement, assessment, and evaluation. Then after going through this lecture, you now assess, try to find out what did you gain new. You compare to what you were, the information you had about these four concepts before listening to this lecture, and now that you have listened to it. So you are now comparing it against yourself, not against anybody. We also have achievement-based assessment, performance-based assessment, authentic assessment. Sometimes some authors are feeling that this authentic assessment is same with effective assessment. It is not completely the same because some authors have backed it up. Authentic assessment is talking about the application, the usefulness of what the learners have learned. If they are able to apply it in not only in that profession, not only in their profession, but in other sectors of life, but also in other sectors of life. That's authentic learning. Being able to use it in their area and in other areas that we are not giving them as examples. That's the application of whatever people have learned. We have insertive assessment. Now comparing previous result with the second result. You had the first result, you had the second result. You now compare them to see the difference. Then what is evaluation? Evaluation is the systematic gathering of information about an instruction, course, curriculum, program, for the purpose of making decisions. Evaluation is the process of making judgments based on criteria and evidence. Now, there are things we need to note here. One is that evaluation is a systematic gathering of information, just like assessment. So two of them are systematic. They don't just occur anyhow. They must be organized, they must be planned. Then, evaluation collects information about an instruction. It collects information about an instruction, course, curriculum, or program. While assessment collects information about a student, about a learner, about a human being. So, as evaluation is talking of inanimate objects, now it is for the purpose of decision making. Assessment is mainly for the purpose of decision making and improvement. Two of them are for judgment. In assessment, you pass a judgment for improvement. In evaluation, you pass a judgment for decision making. These are things we need to know about assessment and evaluation. We try to distinguish them as they go. They are both systematic way of gathering information. But why assessment gathers information about a learner, evaluation gathers information about about things that are not a learner, inanimate objects or issues. Two of them could use tests. Evaluation could use questionnaire, could use checklist. So also assessment. But they are mainly based on different things. Learners and instruction. Then two of them passes judgment. In assessment, you pass judgment, but for improvement. In evaluation, you pass judgment as well, but for decision making. It is not concerned with the assessment of the performance of an individual. That's evaluation. It's not concerned with the assessment of the performance of an individual, but rather with forming an idea of the curriculum and making a judgment about it. So this judgment is based on the criteria and evidence available. The purpose of evaluation is to make decisions about the what and value of instruction, a course, even the whole curriculum or a training program. Now we should understand that evaluation is broader than assessment and may include an analysis of all the aspects of the educational system. While that of test is just taking, or that of assessment is just taking an aspect of that entire educational system, which is mainly on the learner. What do you evaluate in education? You evaluate the effectiveness of an educational system. You evaluate a program. You evaluate a course, a syllabus, instruction, a curriculum, or a student project. Not a student, but a student project. That is what we evaluate. These are inanimate objects, so we should understand that. Types of evaluation in education include formative evaluation, summative evaluation, input evaluation, process evaluation, product or outcome evaluation, impact evaluation, placement evaluation, diagnostic evaluation, norm-referenced evaluation, criterion-referenced evaluation, goal-based evaluation, and even goal-free evaluation. On the summary, the use of test, measurement, assessment, and evaluation in education interchangeably should be avoided, especially by teachers. Test is a device or procedure that measures a particular behavior or set of objectives of a learner. Measurement is the process of scoring, grading, and recording data obtained from learners about the achievement of the intended learning outcome. This intended learning outcome could be obtained using a test. Assessment is the process of collecting information about the learner's learning outcome using different methods or tools such as tests, and the measurement for the judgment and improvement. So in assessment, you have test, you have measurement, you have judgment, and then for improvement. Evaluation is the systematic gathering of information about an instruction, course, curriculum, program for the purpose of judgment and making decisions about them. With that, we come to an end of this course. Feel free to contact us if there's any question you have. Our references are there, and our email is there for you to contact us. Thank you, and God bless you.